Every tutorial out there on Claude Code Skills assumes that you already know what you're doing. They throw code at you and they skip the basics, and sometimes you're just left still confused. So I'm gonna build my first skill from scratch on camera as a complete beginner and walk you exactly through what I learned. If you're a non-technical entrepreneur who's been hearing about Claude Code Skills but has no idea what they actually are or why you would even use one, this video is gonna be for you. I am not a developer at all. I built my first skill last night and it worked. So I wanted to share exactly what I did while it's still fresh. So I like to use Visual Studio Code to run Claude Code and be able to access my projects at the same time. If you want to learn how to download this and connect it to Claude Code, check out this video. But it's basically a place where you can have a live chat window with Claude, your files, and have the ability to view all in one interface without having to repeatedly shuffle between tabs or windows. A skill is basically a markdown file that teaches Claude Code what to do. And Claude's going to apply that knowledge anytime, automatically, whenever it's relevant. If you're not familiar with Visual Studio Code and you look on the left-hand side here, you can access all your files just like you would if the file lived in the documents or on your desktop. And a skill is basically a folder, and it has to be titled skill all caps .md lowercase. If you really think about it, it's like having an SOP but for your AI agent, and it's going to follow these instructions anytime the situation comes up. And this file basically has two parts. At the top you have the name and a description, and they call this the front matter, and it's usually the text between the dotted lines here and here. And below that are the instructions to tell Claude exactly what to do. Whenever you shoot a request, Claude will only load the name and the description of each skill, not the full instructions. It will then use the description to decide which skill matches your request. When it finds that match, it will then load the full instructions. This means you can have a bunch of skills installed and they won't slow Claude down or eat up your context window. They only activate when needed. So there's basically two ways you can store your skills. One being a personal skill, and it's going to be labeled with a ~/.claude, and these will work across all of your projects. The second is a project skill, and is simply labeled .claude/skill. And this is going to be located inside a specific project folder. And this is something you can share with anybody. In the beginning, it's hard to think of what things you can use Claude skills for, but a good rule of thumb is if you find yourself explaining the same thing to Claude over and over again, that's a skill waiting to be written. Now, this next concept did trip me up in the beginning, so I'm going to explain it very simply. And that's knowing the difference between a Claude.md file and a skills file. A Claude.md file is like Claude's permanent memory. It's going to load into every conversation. If you always want Claude to do something a certain way, that goes in Claude.md. Skills, on the other hand, are going to be loaded on demand. Like your brand voice skill doesn't have to be in every context when you're debugging something, right? It's only going to be loaded when you ask for it. Now, another thing to note is a slash or a @ command. So a slash is going to be for your personal skills. They're always available across all projects. But when you want to refer to a skill or a folder that's only within your project, you're going to have to use an @. I'm going to show you how to use this later on when we're working with Visual Studio Code, so you know what I'm talking about. But these are basically ways you can trigger these skills. And all you have to do is type in /brand voice or @brand voice, followed by the instructions that you want to give it. But just remember, with skills, you don't always have to do that, especially if you're prompting it correctly. If your description or your query is specific enough, Claude will automatically recognize that and activate that skill for you. I want to go over some practical examples that make skills click for non-technical people. One being a brand voice guide. Let's say you write a specific way and instead of pasting, write like me, here's my tone, every single session, you're going to teach your skill, your voice, your vocabulary, things you never say, the good, the bad, giving examples, everything you need to have Claude know how you sound and talk. That will become a skill. Another skill would be an audience persona. So describing your ideal customer over and over is one of the biggest time drains ever. A skill can capture who they are, their pain points, how they speak, their objections, and Claude will always write to that person instead of writing to a generic audience. And that's another skill easily built. The third one is something we already touched on, a standing operating procedure. If you have a repeatable task or process, let's say it's onboarding a client, launching a product, pushing out a video, encode that SOP as a skill, Claude can help you execute or improve those processes without rebriefing every single time. Now, the real power to this is once you get good at creating these skills, you can basically replace entire software subscriptions. Think about any app tool you're paying for. If it follows a repeatable process, you're going to be able to create your own version customized to your business. Just think about that. Think about how much you're paying for your tech stack. I promise we're going to get to the live build soon, but you have to understand file structure first. The only file you actually need and is required is the skill.md file. Everything else is pretty much optional. The key is it has to be spelled out exactly like this, skill.md. And another thing to keep in mind is when you activate a skill, it's going to share Claude's whole context window, basically Claude's memory of the entire conversation. And one thing you have to remember with LLMs or any AI, the more memory it uses, the less efficient it becomes. So if you look at a graph, the more memory it uses, the performance goes down. So if you cram everything into one massive file, it takes up space and it's hard to maintain. But you can fix that by having in your core instructions telling Claude to refer to reference files or assets or scripts. So these are the other files you can have in your skills folder. The scripts, which are basically code you can run, references or extra documents, which are only loaded when needed, or even assets, which can include templates, images, whatever. Out of the three optional ones, I want you to be familiar with scripts because this is very powerful. Scripts are extremely efficient. Claude's going to run them without loading the code into the context. It's only going to load the output or the result that the code is going to spit out. You just have to instruct it in Claude.md and tell Claude to run the script and not read it. If you're confused, you don't need to worry about all that right now. For your first skill, just focus on skill.md file. You can add scripts, references later on when you get comfortable. And we're going to touch more on this when we start our live build. All right, so let's actually build one. I'm going to create a skill that scrapes trending YouTube topics and exports the top 5 from the past week into a spreadsheet. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to simply create a folder. So anywhere in the desktop, new folder. I'm going to title this YouTube demo. Then I'm going to open up VS Code, hover over to the left-hand side, click this, click open folder. I'm going to look for that folder that I just created. It's going to be located in desktop. I title the YouTube demo, highlight it, hit open. Now, as you can see, everything on the left-hand side is blank. Now we want to get Claude into the mix. So we're going to hit this icon right here on the top right, and that opens the chat window. Now, for organizational purposes for myself, every time I create a new skill, I like to create a subfolder, but you can do that within VS Code. I'm going to show you how. Again, hover to the left. We're going to hit the new folder button, and then we're going to call this YouTube-research. Now, Claude has a built-in skill called /skill-creator. That's going to help you build new skills and make sure they're running correctly. And you can download this by typing /manage plugins. And that's what we're going to do right now. So /manage, hit plugins. I already have it installed, but it should be one of these down here and you can install it. I already have it installed. Let me show you how simple it is to actually install one of these skills. So let's just download this front-end design skill, click install. So basically, if you install it for you, it's going to be across all your projects like a personal skill. If you install it for this project only, it can only be used within that project or folder. So if we chose this option, it would only be available in the YouTube demo project. Basically, if you think the skill is something you would use across all your projects, install it for you. If you only want to keep it to this one project, choose this middle option right here. I chose install for you because a skill is something I want to be able to create across all of my projects. So I went ahead and turned it on. Now we're going to head back to the chat window. So now we can access that skill. So we're gonna type in /, and it's not popping up. And if this happens to you, all you have to do is restart it. So that's what I'm gonna do, exit out Claude Code. All right, so now it's available. So if you're unable to see this icon after you exit it, all you have to do is just click anywhere in this UI. Then you have a blank document that will pop up, and then you should have access to the Claude button. Open that up. You can exit that because you don't need it. Now we have access to the skill-creator, a skill for making skills. So this is what I would do. Use the skill-creator skill, and then I'm going to paste in my prompt, which basically reads, I want to create a skill for this project. And remember, project skills are different than personal skills because they can only be used in the project, not at all times. So for me, I'm telling Claude to create a skill for this project, this YouTube demo project. Create a skill for this project that scrapes all the trending topics on YouTube. I will provide the topic each time. I want to export the top 5 within the past week into an Excel spreadsheet. The spreadsheet should include view count, title of the video, URL of the video, channel name, thumbnail, and the transcripts. I only want long form videos, and I want videos in English only. Next thing I would do is I would head over to plan mode. So plan mode allows Claude to spin up a playbook or a strategy on how to build this workflow for you. Then it will let you review its plan, and along the way it will ask you any additional questions it may have to complete this build. Then all you have to do is approve it. I'm gonna go ahead and hit enter. And it took about 30 seconds to do everything, but if you review what it did, you know, it was bashing some files, it read some files, it came up with a bunch of things I don't really understand. But now it's giving you the option of yes, approve, and then auto accept. But what I would do is I would review everything. So basically in the context, it says the user wants to create a Claude Code skill that given a topic such as YouTube for top 5 trending long form English videos, right? And the skill structure, so you have the YouTube trending research / folder, and under that's gonna have a skill.md, it's gonna have scripts, it's gonna have a code that will fetch the YouTube videos, and then it will have a code that will export those videos. So remember, scripts, right? It's not gonna take up any memory. So it's going to save you on your tokens or the money that you're going to be using every time you ask Claude something, because basically this code will be kept in your local files, and basically it runs the code, it gets what it needs, feeds it to Claude. Only the result of that code will be used in the context window. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit yes and auto accept. So it's gonna give you a checklist on what it's doing, so you can see and monitor live on what it's doing. So it's gonna create a skill.md, it's gonna create the scripts, then it's gonna test the JSON. But one thing I wanna warn you when I was building this last night, because if you wanna build this exact tool, you have to use it sparingly, because YouTube will flag your IP and halt it for too many requests. Sometimes this can last for hours based on my research. Rarely does it go for days or anything like that. I couldn't find anything on the exact limits, but transcripts do require a lot of tokens. So if you don't want the transcript, I would just leave that part out. That way you can run this multiple times without having any issues. Okay, so now it's gonna continue to prompt me. It's asking me if it wants me to write the skill.md. I'm gonna go ahead and click yes, because it looks good. So I wasn't able to catch it during the build, but what it did wrong is that it stored it as a personal skill. And how I know that is because I see this tilde/.claude. So I'm gonna prompt it to see if it can switch it to this project only. Let's go ahead and do that. I see that you made this skill available as a personal skill, period. I only want this skill available in this project, period. Can you convert that for me? I'm gonna just click yes. So it did do that, and now I created it in this folder, but it didn't create it in the folder that I wanted to. But that's okay, you know, it's just little things here. It's not perfect. So all I would do is just highlight everything and just move it here. Then you can just delete this folder. None of this is necessary. I'm just a little OCD and I like a little organization. So if we scroll back up and see what else we needed, it's going to give you a list of things that you need. And whenever we're working with a third-party application, for this, we need to access YouTube, right? And the best way is through a YouTube API key. And one tip that I can give you, if you're ever going to be sharing any of your projects to anybody else, is to create a .env file, which stands for an environment file. And this file basically stays hidden whenever you share this whole project. And this is where you're going to be storing your API keys or any sensitive information that will expose you, because you don't want someone else running up your build. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna tell Claude, create me a .env file where I can store my API keys, period. Then walk me through the steps on how I can add the necessary API keys for this build. All right, so it spat out everything. It created the .env file, and basically I'm gonna be pasting my API key here. That way it can stay secure if I ever share this file. For example, I'm probably gonna share this with you. I'm gonna link it in my school community, and you guys can have access to all that. And remember, my school community is free. All you have to do is go to my community, go to Classroom, open up Claude Code Resources, and find the one that's titled YouTube Research Project, and then just download these files. Once you have them downloaded, just create a new folder like I did earlier and drag those files right in. Then you can open them up in VS Code, add your API keys, and start using everything. Check the link in the description to get those resources. Let's head back to the build. All right, so we're back in VS Code. I'm gonna go ahead and get my API key. I'm not gonna show this step, you know, I trust you guys, but I don't trust you that much. Now at this point, you have to test it. So I have my API key installed. I'm gonna clear everything, because remember, the larger your context window, the worse the performance of this Claude is gonna be. So let's go ahead and clear this, /clear. That's all you have to do. Clear conversation. Now we have a fresh start. So whenever you wanna research something, let's look at this description. The name should be very specific. So it says YouTube trending research. Use this skill whenever your user wants to research trending YouTube videos on any topic. All right, so what I'm gonna do is I'm going to prompt it and see if it actually uses the skill. I want you to research the top trending videos about cars. All right, I'm gonna do plan mode. Actually, I'll just leave it as edit automatically and just see what it does. I'm gonna exit out of this, and let's see if it actually uses the skill. So it's actually gonna do a web search. It's not gonna use this skill. So I wasn't specific enough. So what you can do, which is good, I'm gonna go ahead and say no. Let's reprompt it. I want you to use, let's do @skill.md. So basically I have selected YouTube/skills.md to research cars. Hit enter, see what it does. Hit yes, access the API key. For some reason, it wasn't able to access my environment, so I'm gonna let it know the .env file is already created in this project. Can you please try again? I'm gonna hit yes for everything. So just make sure you read, and you're not gonna understand everything. I don't understand most of the stuff, but sometimes the more you do it, the more you understand. Google some things if you have to. Pretty interesting. So it caught an issue that it built itself. It's gonna correct it. It's gonna basically asking me if I can go ahead and correct it. So I'll go ahead, do your thing. So it finished the workflow, and as you saw in this live build, it's not perfect, but the best part about this is that it continues to learn as long as you continue to watch it and monitor it and correct it whenever it makes a mistake. Just like a new intern or something, or a new hire. But with this guy, he's super cheap, works 24/7, and you only have to reteach it once. But the back and forth doesn't stop there. So if you look on the left hand side, you can see that it's created the file. And one thing you can do is you can reveal it in a folder. If you have Excel installed, you can open it. I like to open it with Google Sheets. So I'm gonna go to File, Import, upload some, maybe in desktop somewhere. It's gonna be in YouTube demo, cars trending. All right, import. All right, let's see if this is any good. All right, there you go. Honestly, that's pretty good. But remember, the issue I had yesterday was the transcripts. And maybe because I did run it a few times yesterday, so maybe I'm still being halted. But what I would do at this point, well, let's look at this file first, see what it actually did. It's got the thumbnail, which is pretty cool. It's got the title, the channel, the views, the URL to the channel. The only thing is the transcript. So what I would do is I would go back and say, oh, and it says here at the bottom, transcripts were unavailable for all 5 videos. The cells were all marked transcript unavailable in the spreadsheet. Can you troubleshoot why the transcripts weren't available? Okay, it's saying, let me test the transcript API directly. Okay, I'm going ahead. I'll yes to let it test it. So I'm not gonna bore you with all the permissions that's asking you. And one way you can skip all this, once you're more comfortable with it, you can have it bypass permissions. You can access that through settings. So hit the gear icon on the bottom left, go to settings, and then type in bypass permissions, which is right here. So allow dangerously skip permissions. So there are risks involved to this. So if you're a complete beginner, I don't recommend it, but the option is there. Okay, so it's doing this thing. Okay, it says it's all fixed. The root cause was that the YouTube transcript API updated its API. Now it requires instantiation. All right, whatever that means. Let's retry it. So I'm gonna re-import that file and see if it shows the transcript. Boom, there you go. It's got everything. Transcript right on the right hand side. Beautiful. Right. One thing I want to make sure, are these all long form videos? Are they all in English? Yeah, long form. It's a weird looking video. Okay, interesting. I don't know if I would consider that a car. This looks like a long form video too. Okay, they all seem to be in English. All right, that looks good. That looks good. All right, congrats to you for making it this far. You just learned that skills are reusable instruction sets. You write them once, Claude applies them automatically whenever the situation matches. These skills can load on demand, unlike Claude.md, which loads every time. Skills only activate when they're relevant, keeping your context window clean. You now know how to use the built-in /skill-creator to build a YouTube skill that scrapes trending videos and exports them in a spreadsheet. And the best part, you don't need to know how to code. You just need to know how to spell English and type. Not even type, just download Whisperflow. So just think about it. These skills turn Claude from like a general assistant to like a specialist that works in your Excel workflows, in your YouTube business, or whatever it is. And how long is this video? We built this in like less than an hour. So if you want this YouTube scraper and you think this tool is actually useful and there's some things that you can add to it, all you have to do, go down to the link in the description in the resource section, join the community, which is totally free, go to the classroom section, go to Claude Code resources, and it should be under YouTube research project. Download these skills. Once they're in, title your project YouTube researcher, go your downloads and just drag them into this file, open your VS Code, go to open folder and look for those files and just load them up. You should have access to everything. And you would do me a huge solid if you can just subscribe. That way you can get more videos like this and learn more on how you can use AI to scale your business, automate all those boring tasks, and not fall behind.